Hey, what's up, everybody? Podcast time. Trying something a little bit different this week. We got the whole staff here with us, minus a few. Sim's working from home today. Sam, Scott, and Caleb and Taylor are out working here in the church, and so got the majority of us here. Tony, drop your phone. Hope that makes it through the day. Anyways, I wanted to hopefully have some conversation with the staff. And maybe allow you to get to know us a little bit better, but also encourage some people who are out there who may have staff or wish they had staff in their church to see kind of what life is like with us in the office and ministry and all that comes with it. I will say to start this conversation that one of the most difficult things for me, I always thought, hey man, whenever I have staff, I'm going to be able to get so much more accomplished. And little did I know that y'all are not, y'all make life so much more difficult at times. As a senior pastor, you're trying your best to keep your life together, your stuff together, but then also all of their things, investing and helping with them and giving wisdom. I always tell them the best way I can phrase it is, each one of them kind of sees their piece of the pie, and I'm the only one really that kind of sees the whole pie. And so as, Tobena's making a decision for the youth group, and he thinks this is the best decision ever, but I see how it's affecting, Christy and Kids Point, and so I'm trying to make the decisions that make the whole pie taste good and not just your piece of the pie taste good. So staff isn't easy, staff is challenging, and for those of you out there, young pastors who are saying, man, I can't wait till I get some staff members, just know that your life forever changes in ministry as you bring on staff, forever changes. So let's talk, let's chat. What are some things you wish you knew about ministry or about working at the church before you started working at the church? Does that make sense? This question make sense? What do you wish you knew before you got here and actually started the process? Tony, I'll start with you. You've been here the longest.
I think I wish I knew that the familiarity that you get with the house can be a good thing and a bad thing. We're here throughout the week. I'm here in the sanctuary, every day of the week that we're here at work, and it can become commonplace if we're not careful, if we're not intentional about the people coming on Sunday morning, it's their first time through the week, maybe second, and for them, they come here for a purpose and a reason, and if we're not careful and intentional about it, we can lose that.
Yeah, that's great.
And I wish I knew that. It took a while to learn that, at the old place. It became commonplace at times.
Yeah, that's great, man. We experience the presence of God in here on Sunday and Wednesday and Monday night in prayer, but it also at times becomes a workspace for us as we're setting up for concerts or, pulling staples out of chairs, and it's challenging to balance all that for sure. Tobena, you're the newest. We'll go from the oldest to the newest staff member here. What do you wish you knew about ministry before you started working here?
How important communication is. I feel like my whole life I've been training to be very bad at communicating, and some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. So just not being the best at, texting people or replying or checking on them. Even though I think about them and I pray for them, I don't ever reach out to them. And so for me, I wish that was something that I would have been getting myself ready for, having up to 70 people in the youth, and then also like having leaders as well who are as important as me, reaching out to the youth. I just wish that I was a lot more prepared in terms of communication, but I have an amazing staff member in Christy and you who's really been helping me in kind of getting better at that. So
yeah, it's challenging because communication is key, but if you're not careful, it is something that we quickly push aside. We always talk about this, that every task is attached to a person. And so as much as we are very task-driven because we have to accomplish things while we're here working, that's all attached to a person that we're trying to affect or impact or challenge or help or support or equip or whatever the situation may be. Pastor Cliff, Pastor Joseph, both of you came from other ministries. How about just in y'all's life, whenever you were obviously younger in ministry, seasoned minister, what are the things you wish you knew before you started?
For me, I think just having fun. I'm just really enjoying what I'm doing, and I think just being around the church all the time and just laughing a lot, I get to relax. I get to enjoy this part of my life, because in ministry, you're kind of tense, and you're always trying to run ahead. With me, I'm keeping up, and I enjoy working with each and every one here on staff because they make me laugh, they compliment me, and they also strengthen me. And looking at all the youth and the vibrant and the excitement, it makes my life so much easier.
It really is awesome how we've kind of all grow together as a family and become a valuable piece of all of our lives. You guys are a valuable piece of our life, and so it's really cool how that staff life, that office life becomes that. What about you, Pastor Joseph?
I think for me, what's been uniquely different, and as I look at our staff, we have only a couple of us that have small kids. Coming to a ministry like this, it was adjusting to the hours in which we operate. I was a pastor before, so set my own schedule. Not that I didn't work. It was just I had no staff. It was just me. So I went to the church, did what I needed to do, got there early, left 3 or 4 o'clock, had the evenings to the family time. So it was easy to schedule those things. And so coming to a ministry like this where there's so many things going on, somebody might hear this on live stream, like, oh, we all work 40 hours, whatever. But the hours are uniquely different here, like on Mondays and Wednesdays. There are days that, we leave before the kids go to school, and then we come back when they're in the bed for my schedule. And so adjusting to that was something that was different for us. It's made me have to be more disciplined. I think yesterday we were talking, you made a statement that stuck out to me, that how that family time is so sacred. That is so precious. And so the smallest of things that before were just a passing moment of folding up clothes, now I'm finding, how can I get eaten in there folding clothes with me? Because that's time. Time is a thief, as I think Becca made a post about it the other day, because here time moves so differently. In a good way, but it moves so quickly, so efficiently, that you don't want to waste time just throwing in my earphones, listening to a podcast while I'm folding clothes. Now I want to have a conversation.
Awesome. Great one. Johnny Christie, married in ministry. What are the things you wish you knew before being a part of this? Johnny.
I would say, for me, because I idolized, I think, full-time ministry in a way, that this isn't like the arrival. Like, being a part of full-time ministry isn't like the end journey, but it's just the beginning for me. Because I've always looked at it as, okay, if I can just get there to full-time ministry. But as I got into full-time ministry and it seemed like it happened so quick, there seemed like there was so much more. And so for me, naturally, in who I am, I want to find some comfort and I want to find some stability. But I know there's more out. Like, I can't just stay where I'm at. I have to keep going. So I have to fight that person.
For sure. Christy.
Going back to what you've already talked about, but what Tobin was talking about too with communication, everything we do is so people-oriented, whereas it's like that in the school system. As a teacher, you're people-oriented with your coworkers, the families you interact with, and the students. But more so, it's just a lot different. Caring for people is different than just being their teacher. So carrying that into ministry has been different because I'm used to, like, okay, I have this, and this I need to get done. And instead, it's way more people-oriented than task-oriented.
For sure. Samantha, this is brand new to you. Ministry in general, this is all completely new.
Yeah.
What are the things you wish you knew before you got involved?
I think one of the biggest things for me is that there are so many people with so many good ideas, and no is not a bad word. You've got to learn to say no even to what seems like is a good idea or it could be a great idea. We can't do everything, so.
Yeah, I read a book one time, Good or Great, I forgot what the name of it is, but so often we settle for good things when God has great things. And we say yes to good things, and we have to, in saying yes to good things, we say no to great things. All right, honey, you grew up in this.
I didn't grow up in this.
You watched me work in ministry, and then all of a sudden now you're thrown into the fire. What are the things you wish you knew before you started?
I'd always worked a 40-hour, just normal kind of job, and I would be done with it and, go home and kind of like be done with work. And then when you're in ministry, you're never really done with work. Like, yeah, you work office hours, but then you get home and you're still working and you're still ministering to people and you're still dealing with problems or even like good things or, it's definitely a harder job than I ever had anticipated. We talked about it the other day. I can remember, I think the first day I actually worked here, and I was like, I have worked harder in this one day than I worked my entire week at my past job.
I quit, I think was your exact words.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. But it never turns off. Yeah. It is a 24/7 job. You have to be very, whatever that word is, intentional. Yeah. So that like if you are not working and you're on vacation or whatever, that you are not working. Yeah, you have to have those breaks.
Yeah, I will say this is why for me what we do has got to be a calling rather than a job. If this is a job, you will get burnt out and exhausted and quit, and when it becomes a job, you find all of those emotions rising up, and it can't be a job. It has to be, God has called me to this, and I'm walking forward in this. So, did I get everybody? I told everybody. Okay, so here goes one that I think is something that people, especially Mr. I couldn't wait to get into ministry, and Mr. I thought all y'all did was lay around and pray all day. So I think one of the things that people out there watching this won't know or won't understand is that in working for the Lord, you can find yourself getting disconnected from the Lord. You find yourself being the sound, media, production. You're always doing all of those things. And Monday night prayer, you're sitting in here in prayer and something squeals, so you're running back to the soundboard, fixing the squeals. Before Monday night prayer, we've got kids running around, so you're walking around trying to, get kids. We're so busy getting things done for the kingdom of God that if we're not careful, we miss out on our relationship and on our intentional time with Him. Does that make sense? Okay, so the question I think is, how do you guard against that? Do you find that to be true? Let's talk through that concept a little bit. Do you find that you work so hard for the Lord that if you're not careful, you find yourself disconnected from the Lord at times?
I'll go first. Actually, Joseph was in my office 2 days yesterday, and he was not yesterday. I was not here yesterday. Yeah, 2 days ago, and kind of like start asking me, why do I have this stuff on my board? Because I put some scriptures on my board, and the first one is a scripture in Proverbs that says, slow down and don't rush to do things, or it's going to lead to sin. And that's one of the first things I put on there, because my first day working here, I forgot that I was actually like in the mindset that I had when I came here at first. The mindset I had when I came here at first was like, God, like, I can't wait to make an impact for your kingdom, like to love these kids, like you showed me love. And my first day, I found myself trying to use this laptop that Christy had gave me, because I don't know how to use technology, try to put stuff on service plan and all that. And after 3 hours, I'm like, man, I'm actually working a lot, rather than actually like letting God lead me, So then I looked up on Google and found that scripture. And so for me, like, I need to look at that every day and realize that, man, if I don't slow down, I'm going to find myself at the end of the week realizing that I did a lot of nothings to God, And so that's, for me, is just, I have to remind myself that, man, you need to slow down and like truly set your eyes on things above, even while you're doing all this work here. or it's just going to be a lot of nothing in the eyes of God, you know.
So true. Somebody else. Samantha.
I'll piggyback off of that. I'd say that's a real thing for me too. I came from working 2 different jobs and, on the hamster wheel of work. And I thought coming into ministry, like Tavena, like, man, I'm going to be able to spend so much time in his presence and so much time. And it's not that at all. You have to be so intentional with that or it does get lost. It's very easy to get lost. So yeah.
Johnny.
Yeah, I think for me it's a two-way street. I think in one way, working at a church anchors me and gives me opportunities to stay spiritual and to be connected in times where other people may have an option to stay at home and for me, when I don't have an option to stay at home, then my heart has to be in the right place. Like when we come to prayer on Monday nights, am I just going to sit there because I'm supposed to be there, or am I going to actually get in the moment and gain something from it? And then the other side of it is, for me, I can feel myself if I'm not spiritually feeding myself, then I'm not going to be able to handle the church work life that I have, and I can feel that. And so for me, doing it I'm on my 4th year now, I can feel the swings in my spiritual life when if I'm not doing well spiritually, then I'm not able to handle my work. And there is some times where I'm putting in head counts or I'm doing admin tasks, but it's almost like it's connected spiritually. So it's like you have to, if you're not doing well spiritually, if you're not having some consistency in that area, then you're going to find yourself almost feeling like it's a supernatural drain.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. Maddie.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback off of Johnny. The whole like if you're not spiritually good yourself, then if you're married, you can't be spiritually good as a couple. And in our fact, if we're not spiritually good, then the staff can't be spiritually good or the church can't be spiritually good. So you have to be really intentional instead of it being task-oriented or, just kind of trying to get the work complete. You have to slow down. You have to kind of be in his presence every day. Intentionally, we both wake up early in the morning and we both do our devotions, kind of first thing in the morning to get the day started, and then just to kind of be in his presence all day, because if not, you can literally just get stuck because there's always so much going on here, just get stuck in the day-to-day. Okay, I got to get this, I got to do this, I got to do this, and then just kind of forget, oh no, I have to do this first. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. Tony.
I think one of the things that as staff, you kind of hopefully evolve into this, because it takes time to see it. At least it did for me. Maybe y'all knew it immediately, but the importance of feeding yourself on a individual relationship to God. We read the Bible together corporately, and that's awesome. We pray together corporately on Monday nights, and that's awesome. We worship together on Sundays, and that's awesome. Those things are incredible, and they're amazing. But if I'm not intentional on a one-on-one basis, then it can all just become numb sometimes, to where you're checking a checkbox. Okay, great, I read my scriptures this morning with everybody. But if I'm not reading other things that are just personal with me and him, there's a fade that begins to happen. And if we're not careful, we'll be in a worse place than we could be. Because people looking to us. People looking to us to be spiritual leaders. And so we have to just learn that skill of feeding ourselves.
Yeah, and for me, my mind works very administratively. It is the spiritual gift of administration. It is something that is very high in me. And so I love that. So for me, tasks and check marks are very spiritual for me. And so someone who, has a spiritual gift of wisdom or, knowledge, gaining knowledge is probably where you feel most connected and feel like you have, had that spiritual moment with the Lord. And at the end of the day, for all of us, we have to get to the place to where we understand whether it's knowledge, it's still spiritual. And whether it's administration, it's still spiritual. And whether it's giving of yourself or serving or a gift of helps, it's still spiritual. All of those things are still spiritual gifts, the Spirit working in you. And just because it's not your spiritual gift, I'm not an administrator, doesn't mean that it's not spiritual. And so I think that's one of the things that we have to work through here to see, okay, hey, there's something spiritual attached to this. It can't just be this. There is no spiritual gift of worship. Like, we know that. Hopefully y'all know that. It's not like you have the spiritual gift of worship. No, like that's not a spiritual gift. We come into worship, we enjoy worship, we worship together. That feels really good to be connected to the body of Christ, worshiping together, exalting his name together. I love worship more than anybody in our church, I bet. I love it. But administration is spiritual. Checking off that task is spiritual. And I think that's something that, has, especially for people who haven't been working here long, or people in smaller churches that you love those, fiery services that you have. Just know the gift of administration, that there is something spiritual about checking off that box and saying, I've accomplished that.
Yeah, I think it's important for Christians and us and everybody to understand there's value in all of those things. Like reading and checking a box is great, and it's just as important. We can't throw that to the side. But then reading just for the love of it, because I know I need to, or spending that time alone with God, even though I spend it here corporately. I think that if we're not careful, we'll check a box and feel comfortable. It's like, oh, I did it. I didn't get anything from it. Praise God, I did it. And there's moments where that's essential that we do that. But if we're doing it to neglect the rest of it, it's just important that all those things happen in our lives so we grow continually.
For sure. Joseph.
No, I think I really come along with what you guys were talking about. I think you told us one time before, every task in leadership development is attached to a person. And so my brain is very analytical, very literal. And so if I see a task, it's finished task, period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so if I'm not careful, for me, I don't value the spiritual aspect of even the task. This is on my to-do list. I got to do it. You know what I mean? And so I have to balance that for me. For instance, this morning, I'll be a little transparent. I usually listen to my Bible plan on the way to the church, because once we get to church, it's balls rolling, let's go, And I found myself, I have the one that we read as a church every week that we use for accountability. Then I have one that I do personally that's a year reading plan. I was to date on my church one because I check that on my task every day, but on my personal, I was 3 days behind. And I was like, how did that even happen? I read the Bible at the same time every day, but in my head, I had done my checklist. And so I was done. I'd read my Bible, and then I was sitting here thinking while we were talking, what was the day's devotion about? And I can't remember off the top of my head the fullness of the content. I know what the scripture was, and I think it was 2 Corinthians, 1 Corinthians, but then I'm convicted because we're sitting there talking about it. My check box, if you went and checked it right now, Joseph read his Bible today, but what value did it pose to me personally, spiritually right now? Probably not much. And the Word of God never comes back void, all that kind of stuff. But I've been in ministry now 10 years, full-time for 7, and if I'm not careful, I'm reading the Word for messages. I'm singing worship music to prepare for the set on Sunday. When I was in high school, begging for the moment of being in full-time ministry, I worship just to be in His presence. That's what I honor about you. Those moments when you're over here on the stage, on your knees worshiping, it is an extension of what you do at 5 o'clock in the morning and what you do on those other times. And I'm working to get to that place again, restoring that first love to where, Lord, I just want to be in your presence. I'm going to preach messages. We're going to sing songs. That's part of what we're called to do. But those things have so much more value and anointing when those personal moments, like she alluded to, are back intact the way they need to be.
Amen. So good. Yeah, for sure. Pastor Cliff.
I think for me, with care, I'm constantly praying for others, and I get caught up in caring for people that if I'm not careful, I don't care for myself. I don't take care of my spiritual being. So what I try to do every morning is get up and intentionally spend time in worship and reading the Word and getting into praise and worship and trying to hear from God, because sometimes if I'm busy and things are going and I have to be in the office early or whatever, if I'm not careful, I'll let that overshadow my personal relationship with Christ, and in my mind, I'll think, oh, well, I did talk to God today. I did have a conversation with him, but did I have that intimate time with just me and him?
How many of you, I think Chrissy's the last one, right? Everybody else has answered. How many of you would say, I get so busy caring for other people and feel like I don't find time to care for myself like I should? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely a real struggle inside of ministry where we pour ourselves out, and if we're not careful, we can find some burnout there and some, disheartened moments. So, for sure. Christy.
I love to-do lists and checking things off. It brings me joy, satisfaction, and I feel success, like just being able to check things off. But if I'm not careful, I'll do all the things I need to do, and then at the end of the day, my very last task before I turn my checklist in is to make sure that I've read and done my devotional. And sometimes there will be days where I go throughout the whole day, I'm like, man, so successful today, and I feel so guilty, and the conviction hits like, I'm at the end of the day, it is 3:30, almost 4 o'clock, and I have not even stopped to just be still. So I want to get to that place where I get up early and it's the first thing on my mind and it's all I can think about, and I'm sick all day until I can get that done. But there's just life and it gets in the way. So yeah, it's a big thing for me. I love checking things off and I love getting it done and I feel accomplished for that. But again, if you were to ask me what I read this morning or yesterday, I'm not sure that I could tell you. So getting to the point where it actually sinks in and makes a difference or value in my life is where I want to get.
Yeah, this morning was about the broken vessels. We are weakness. Our vessel is weak, and God's, in our weakness, He's strong. It was great reading this morning. Have you ever felt burnout in ministry? Some of you that have been here a long time, been in ministry a long time, you ever felt burnout in ministry? I see some heads shaking.
Yes.
Yeah, if I can, before I got here, I was at that place. I mean, I'll be very transparent there. I think First Lady alluded to it a moment ago about working a job. I can remember working at the bank, and I go back to what you were speaking to Pastor Johnny about wanting to be in full-time ministry. I can remember texting Pastor Toby Jones, who was my pastor at the time, and I honor him for giving my first opportunity. He's at a conference or whatever, and I was so jealous. Here I am working a job, and I'm wanting to be there. And then 7 years later, I found myself saying, I'd love to be at the bank right now because I had more genuine conversation with people who were lost and didn't know Christ. But then at 5 o'clock, when I clocked out, I wasn't at home worrying about the bank. You know what I mean? I was at home living life or with my wife or, going to do church stuff or whatever. And I'd gotten to a place before I got here where, Lord, maybe I just need to do that. Maybe I need to go get a job and I can evangelize a little bit or sing a little bit here just to scratch that itch, so to speak, and just heal. But then I got here and I hear you telling leadership development, the first thing you don't do when you burn out is quit serving, because serving is who you are. And I was like, but that's our first natural reaction is, I need to take a break on God. Not take a break on God, but on the things He's called me to do. Because, as Pastor Cliff alluded to, you just pour out. But if you hadn't taken care of yourself personally, it'll get you to that place.
Yeah, and what he's speaking to, just so you know, so that I can put it in context, and what I always say is there's a difference in I need a couple of weeks off because I got a lot going on in my life. I need a couple weeks off, and the difference in that, and I'm burnt out, I need to step away from ministry or to step away from serving completely, and I'll come back to serving whenever I'm feeling better. If we want to be more like Christ, we serve, because he came to serve. So our response to being burnt out shouldn't be to walk away from serving. It should be, I want to be more like Christ, so I'm going to serve, and I'm going to pray, and I'm going to worship, and I want to push through in these moments because I want to be more like him, not walk away from those moments that make me more like him in hopes that it's such a backwards thought process. I walk away from serving in hopes that it will make me less burnt out. No, it's going to make you less like Christ, and you're going to ultimately burn out even more by walking away from serving. Tony.
Yeah, I think, I think we all, when we moved into this building, there was a little portion, just a little slight portion of burnout, to say the least. It was a lot. It was stressful. But even other times where, you just get to that point sometimes where it's normally, at least in my life, attached to something else, where there's other things taking the time, and you're having to choose between a good thing and a good thing, and you just feel so stretched, and there's only so far you stretch. So for me, how I battle burnout is, and I hate to just give a cliche answer, but prayer. But I don't want to diminish it by saying, "Oh, you just pray about it." But I don't like being burnt out. I don't like who I am when I'm burnt out. I'm a friendly person. I think most people who know me, at least think positively about me. Most people. But when I get burnt out, I get mad. You just turn into something that you don't want. So my prayer in that moment is, God, whatever I'm angry at, whatever's making me feel that way, because I don't like feeling that way, is God, help me. If I'm wrong in my opinion, if I'm mad at Sam or whoever, just God, make me right. Not that Sam, that Sam. No, but God, make me right inside, because not right like make my opinion the right way, make what's the right way in my opinion.
So Pastor Cliff talked about waking up and making sure he's intentional. Tony talking about making sure he's intentional. Me talking about making sure I'm serving, I'm worshiping, I'm doing the things that I should do. Johnny, I know you've experienced burnout in ministry before. How do you guard against that, or what do you do to protect yourself right now in this season from getting back to a place of burnout in ministry?
Yeah, first I'll say for me, it's not ever a workload that causes burnout for me. So when we go into a work project, I usually...
You thrive in those seasons.
I sound kooky, but I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, you love those seasons. And
it's almost like a supernatural grace. Like when we had 4 services, I never felt tired or complaining when we had to do all these work projects. I was always up, ready to go. This is good for me. For me, it's when maybe I've grown to a certain point, and then I start feeling drop balls or failure. And so then my natural reaction is I want to quit, because I don't want to have to deal with the failures, the disappointments, the just not seeming successful. Like, what am I doing? And so for me, there's 2 things I can either do. I can keep it to myself, and it just gets so bad that it's just unhealthy. Everybody recognizes it, but doesn't want to say anything.
Which is your go-to move. That is the one that you use most often.
Johnny gets grumpy.
You don't want to say anything. You just want to hope that you get out of it.
Right.
And the other part for me is exposing it.
Which is painful.
So having conversations with you or with Christy and saying, I'm struggling here. I'm not okay. It feels weird to say I'm not enjoying my job, or this I'm not liking what I'm doing. To me, that I don't ever want to do that, because I thrive on success. So,
and you prayed for this your whole life.
Yeah. So then to come to grips with, it's either like all in, like it's either this or nothing, to then say this isn't working. Okay, so what's the result of that? So having to deal with that, because naturally running is the best option. Quitting is, what's easiest there. Or, you can have a conversation and be better, do better. And honestly, drawing closer spiritually. I know we talked about prayer, but not just prayer, but just almost like a warrior-like intimacy with God.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, here goes one that I think we're all going to struggle with, and we're all going to struggle to have answers for. How do you keep yourself, your gifts, sharp? I think if we're not careful, we pray, we read our Bibles. Those are all, every believer should be doing that. But how do you keep yourself sharp as a youth minister, as a children's pastor, as the whatever your role is, discipleship or outreach or whatever care? How do you keep yourself growing in that specific area? Okay, so I think this answer should be, hey, I'm watching a podcast from this guy who's on this, doing that. I think this is the type of answer we should have here. Johnny.
I'll just say this real quick. I open myself up for criticism and coaching from you or someone that I trust. And I have to not let myself get offended, which naturally I do. Yeah. Naturally I hate it. Naturally I don't want someone telling me I'm not doing right or telling me what I could do better. But
and the hard part is I'm not the foremost expert in discipleship or small groups. I've never been to a church that did small groups other than ours. So,
but as a generalist,
so as a life,
yeah,
yes, absolutely. But in your specific area, how do you keep yourself sharp, trained, growing in your specific area of ministry?
And mine's easy. It's because it's production. I mean, just studying, which, not open your social studies book, but, studying the trends, studying what's new, because with my specific one, there's always new innovations, and if you're not staying ahead of it, you're going to fall behind very quickly. So for me, just staying up on what's happening, what new microphones are coming out, what new, LED screens need to happen, and so mine's easy, just staying up with tech trends as they will, because for us in ministry, production means one thing, and that is, does it accentuate the message that's happening here? We could have drones flying around and all this stuff, but and that's not what we want. We want things that will accentuate the production here that will help the message go forward. So, just staying up with anything that'll help with that.
And I will say Tony is the one who, the week before COVID hit, we finally got everything in, and we live streamed in HD with our new cameras and our new encoder and our new technology. And literally, we did it week 1, and then COVID hit, and we shut down week 2, right? Yeah. And so we were able to, where everybody was scrambling at COVID time trying to get updated technology, because you were learning from experts, you had the updated technology there ready to install and be ready for the craziness that was COVID.
Yeah, the company that we go through, I was talking to one of their reps during all that, and they're like, man, we're trying our best to get product out to people because everybody wants it now. He said, man, you guys are so lucky that you guys had it beforehand.
And it's not luck. It wasn't luck. It was hard work, effort, and pressing forward.
Yeah, honestly, like multiple times, there's been times where I felt like spiritually, like that you don't think something like that could be spiritual, but making decisions early that are spiritually led to then be able to take advantage and be able to minister in moments like that. I've seen it multiple times.
I'll say one thing with that example that can be applied to every part of ministry. The reason that I was researching that, the reason I was figuring out is because we had something that wasn't working. Something was a problem. And instead of just saying, well, that's what we got, it was driven inside of me, man, what will make this better? What can we do to overcome this obstacle? And that should be every part of ministry. If we've got a problem, what can we do to overcome the obstacle?
Christy, I know you're a part of groups, you're a part of things. Talk to us. What do you do to sharpen yourself?
Mine was more practical. I love Craig Rochelle's leadership podcast. And so if anybody ever asks, that's like an easy one. They're super short, super quick. I've listened to them probably 1,000,000 times and could tell you front to back what he says about certain types of leaders, and can even point out those types of leaders that I've either worked under or served under before. And maybe I didn't know it now, but looking back, I can say, oh, wow, that's why, the vision was maybe clouded, and the people lacked vision is because the leader was this type of leader. So it also helps me just to know, okay, what kind of leader am I? But then I'm also practically just a part of like 1,000,000 Facebook groups, and That can be dangerous, but at the same time, they share ideas, like with our curriculum, the different levels, and hey, this is what we're choosing to do this year. This is how we're marrying in what our church is doing for a sacred season type fasting thing, and this is how we're using this series to do this with. And it gives ideas, and we can share ideas back and forth. And then our church is also connected to a specialist within the curriculum, so that's helpful too. I email ours a lot, just asking questions and how can we do this? What can we do to make this better? And so just seeking out advice and help from others who are experts in the field.
Awesome. So Benna, I mean, you're new to this. Who are you learning from? Who are you growing from? How are you getting better?
I got two different things. First of all, there's podcasts I listen to from Tony Evans, from John MacArthur, just these few different, pastors that kind of talk on leadership, talk on just being a man, a godly man, a kingdom man. And I remember Tony Evans actually talking about that a lot. So that's one of the things I do. But mine is gonna sound kind of strange, but making mistakes is another thing for me. And I remember God making it clear to me that one day when I sent out an announcement, and it even had no location on where we're supposed to meet at the mall. I didn't know the mall had 20 different entrances, my bad. And at that moment, I started panicking. You sent me a message, somebody put it in the church message, church-wide group, and all that stuff, and I started panicking. At that moment, kid you not, I felt like God was just telling me that mistakes are one of the things that he's going to use to complete me, to make me grow. And so made me remember of that passage in the Bible that says, trials causes perseverance, and then it completes you at the end. And so for me is yes, I'm going to submit to whatever God puts in my heart to do with the youth. But at the same time, whenever we make mistakes, that's why you see me running to your office saying, hey, what do I do about this? I go to Christy, what do I do about this? And God is like, man, you being humble is what he's going to use for him to actually reveal so many things that can take the youth ministry to a good place. And then another thing for me is being active. When you presented this opportunity for me, I was somewhat overweight compared to what I've normally been. And God was just like, you got to stay active so you can run around with this kid. Stay active, run around this youth. Because it's weird. Even though I was a pro athlete, I feel like they have unlimited stamina in the youth. Doesn't make any sense to me, but they just never get tired, And so for me, I just remember, okay, I got to stay in shape so I can be able to run around with 6th graders to 12th graders, whatever they want to do. If I have to go to a game, go play basketball with someone, and then go play volleyball here, I have to be able to do that. So for me, that's just, it sounds weird, but that's what I feel like God's just put in my heart.
Anybody have something specific to your area? Here goes the caution I would give you and to those of you watching. Leadership podcasts are great, but if you're not growing in your specific area, it's the reason why I send y'all, links to, hey, this churchleaders.com, it has something specific for your area of ministry every single day. Do you have something from your specific area, the thing that you do, that you watch, that you listen to, that you read, that you study to make yourself better? If not, let me just caution everybody out there, you should. If you are from outreach to children's to admin to care to discipleship, everything in between, you should be reading something every single day or listening to something every single day to make your area of ministry better, or encourage your area of ministry, or support your area of ministry. Johnny, you have your mic on.
Yeah, I was going to say churchleaders.com has under pastors, they have a admin kind of section, and I was just looking at it this morning, and they were talking about 7 tips to productivity and talking about, grouping stuff together. So that's one I use. A lot of planning center groups, because a lot of what I do is through planning center services and groups for discipleship. So and then using a specialist for planning center. And there's a couple discipleship websites that I use as well, and a couple books. So.
Yesterday I had the opportunity to make a contact with Pastor Marcus from the Gateway Network, who's one of the most successful campus pastors in their network. Campus ministry is unique to me. This is a new journey, but it's also something that is quite unique on the church landscape. Almost every ministry does it in a uniquely different way. Even the way we do it is different to where you might read some other things, and so for me that was a valuable relationship, a valuable conversation. But then also on almost like the church planning aspect of what we're doing in our campus launch is reading church planning material. I'm reading Launch right now. I'm reading a couple of things like that. Because that is a different mindset than a typical just XYZ pastor, like even in our movement, what I'm accustomed to doing. But then through leadership development, I got to read Next Generation Leader for the second time. One thing that Andy Stanley talked about was leveraging your strengths. I always was like, I'm terrible in these areas. This is what I really need to focus on because this is taken care of. He was like, no. I mean, don't get me wrong. You need to be as well-rounded, whatever, but you need to focus on your strengths, what God has gifted you in. So for me, the aspects of ministry that are valuable in what I do, for instance, like preaching, I'll listen to preachers that I feel like align with my style of ministry, but also I'll listen to people who don't align with my style of ministry. Podcasts, reading material, all of those things, or reading even transcripts. I like looking at even on Sundays that I don't necessarily preach, I will sit in my seat and follow along with you, just seeing how your brain works while you're going through the message, because all of those things hone us and make us better at our skills.
Yeah, for sure. What are you doing well in life right now? What are you doing well in life right now? Okay, so this doesn't have to be ministry-minded, this could be anything. What are you doing well in life right now? Pastor Cliff.
I think for me, my relationship with my wife, every day I try to get home in time to have dinner with her, sit down, spend some quality time with her, and get to know her. Even though we've been married 38 years, there's still a lot of things that I'm learning about her. And I try to focus on her every day, and I think that's my focus right now, is to have time with her and have that moment where we can laugh together, we can complain about each other, and when we fall, we just laugh and we just have a good time. And I think just having that one-to-one time, that's what I'm proud to say. I'm still working on being a good father. I'm still working on being a good grandpa. And even my relationship with the Lord, that's constantly working. But right now, I can say relationship with my wife.
Somebody else, what are you doing well right now? It doesn't have to be spiritual at all. It can be, I'm crushing Madden right now. What are you doing well right now? Tobina.
Just working out, playing basketball a lot lately. Even with some of the teens, a good number of them in high school, middle school love playing sports, and so I feel like that's what I'm doing pretty well right now.
Good. Somebody else.
I would say, Samantha had whispered it, but eating. We're eating.
You're eating well?
Conquering that real good right now.
Crushing that
In
one.
turn, I do work out 5 days a week now because of my eating habit, and I've been doing that since June, so I feel like I'm crushing that. You haven't seen any weight difference? It's because I'm eating still. But that's why I'm eating, because I'm working
Love
out
it.
daily.
You are crushing that. Somebody else. What are you doing well in life right now?
Staying alive, breathing. No, I don't know that I'm doing anything well, but I might be doing some things good, maybe. Like, I'm not great in one area, but I feel like just this season that I'm in is, we just came out of Thanksgiving, so it's gonna sound super cliche, but just really stopping and being grateful for the season that I'm in, just being thankful. Yeah.
Somebody else. What are you doing well right now?
I find it difficult to say I'm doing anything well, but there are a few things that are the most important things for me to do well, and that's being a father and a husband. I think my wife would say I'm doing okay as a husband. I know as a father, I want to do that well more than I want to do anything well, other than serve Jesus, which that's part of it. But along with what you were saying as far as our ministry, what we should be doing, I'm constantly reading a parenting book, like every day. You will not find me without one, like on my Kindle app that I'm like on the way home. I'll listen to at least a portion of something every single day, because that is the most important thing for me to be good at. And I don't think I am yet, but I am constantly growing. That's the most important thing.
Awesome. Somebody else, what are you doing well right now? Joseph.
I'm very self-critical, and so I don't ever feel like I'm doing much well. But if it's not too cheesy or cliche, I guess faithfulness is what I feel like I do well. Like, I'm still gonna show up. It may not be great, I'm still gonna be married. I'm still gonna be dad. I do my best to be there, and I guess that's about the most consistent thing. I'm gonna be there. I'm loyal. Those are things like that. But I hope, like Pastor Tony and Pastor Cliff alluded to, that if beyond being a faithful servant of the Lord and being faithful to the ministry, is I pray that I'm doing the best I can as a husband, as a father. That's for sure.
I don't know why this is so hard. I think because I'm very self-critical also, but I think I'm doing relationships well right now. I think that's something that I struggle with because I am very task-oriented, so sometimes I just will text someone, jump right into the task, and I'm like, oh, by the way, good morning, hope you're having a good day. But I think I'm doing a good job with my relationships right now.
Good. You said you had another one?
I was going to say spending your money on Christmas.
You
I'm
are
doing that
doing
real
well.
well right now.
Me too. Black Friday,
Johnny.
Cyber Monday.
Oh, the box is on my doorstep.
I don't know. I feel very critical of myself, and so I can't say sports or anything because I'm kind of out of commission right now with a few injuries. But I don't know if it was good when I had no injuries.
That's what you're doing well right now.
Not playing sports.
Injuring.
And I'm very good at being injured right now. I'd say I'm a lot better right now as a husband. I don't know the ministry side of anything. I'm I don't know.
Chrissy, do we concur?
I will say for me, I'm going to answer this one. For me, I am doing well at being the peacekeeper in my home.
Because I am not doing momming well.
I have teenagers and a wife that gets frustrated with them, and they are all frustrated at each other, and I feel like I spend my time. I don't do many things well, and I am very self-critical as well. I struggle seeing any good in myself, but that is one thing that I'm just like, I am crushing this right now. I am walking around, and everybody's mad at me, which means that's when you know you're a good peacekeeper. When everybody involved is mad at you, that means, all right, I've got your eyes off of them. You're mad at me. I'm good. I'm the peacekeeper. So I am crushing being a peacekeeper right now. You about to say something else?
Yeah, this is completely off subject, but I feel like me and Johnny are both doing well at being new soccer fans. Okay, we're
U.S. men's national team. I got them all. Got y'all all involved. Everybody watched the game yesterday. It was amazing.
We call it soccer.
Some of us call
Is
it
that what they say?
Football.
Some of us call it
football.
Soccer.
Football.
Soccer.
Football.
You're in America. Soccer.
It's
Football. Be careful.
you use your foot,
Football.
not your sock.
Not your sock. Football.
Soccer.
All right. Anyways, so let's end this way. And I know we've taken a little longer than we normally do, but let's end this way. What's your favorite part of ministry? Okay. Let's try not to be generic. I know we got some uber spiritual people here, and I just love loving the Lord. It's just so my favorite part of ministry. Let's try to be real and honest. And what's your favorite part of ministry? Who wants to go first? Johnny.
I would say I get to do things that I feel like no one, if they weren't serving at the church, would ever get to do. I get to go places that I never would have gotten to go if I was, working a secular job. I've been able to, like this past summer, some things that I got to do I never could have imagined doing. And it's kind of, not to get too spiritual, it's kind of like when, like in the Old Testament, it talks about the Levites, their special possession is the Lord. And so I may sacrifice in my life making thousands and thousands and whatever dollars I could have made, in another career. But I know that some things that I get to do is special to me that you couldn't really put a price tag on. So
Agree totally. Agree a bazillion %. Samantha.
I love watching all the events and all of the outreaches come to pass. Like I love, like all the background stuff is so stressful sometimes, but then watching everyone work in those events, like when we go to New Directions or we have those different outreaches, and just watching every piece of the puzzle come together and seeing people flourish in their area is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you do know that is the job of ministers, to equip the body for the working of ministry. I tell y'all that all the time. Our job is to set everything else up in the background so that they can come in and do ministry, and they walk away feeling successful, and your success is from watching them be fulfilled in ministry. It's a good one. What's your favorite part of ministry? Somebody else.
I think mine is serving. I love to serve. I look forward to coming in on Sunday and serving at the altar. But I think one of my favorite part, and this may sound corny, but I like task. I like to serve because this is God's house. And I look at it as a privilege to come into God's house and be a doorkeeper, a servant, a person that cleans the toilets or whatever. It's just, that's what excites me about being in God's house.
Amen. Somebody else, favorite part of ministry? Go.
I love serving too. I was going to say that, but more specifically, this past week was one of the first weeks that I've been back in Kids Pointe, but I wasn't on the main stage teaching. And so getting to equip others to be successful in leading in ministry, I just was smiling the whole time watching Carson Stout lead from start to finish. I was like, he's going to do this one day. He's going to lead in ministry one day, and it's going to be because, we've allowed him that opportunity to grow and to flourish. And I mean, he's incredible anyway. It's nothing that I did, but just giving him those opportunities, it was really cool. We're also going through the whole Bible this year in our curriculum. So each week we review and just reward the kids for remembering. And we have a child in there that's only 5, supposed to be 6 to be in the auditorium, but wants to be in the auditorium. We don't fight about it. And I was telling Johnny on the way to work this morning, I was almost in tears because he knew the answer to every question. He knew random Bible characters. He knew who Isaac's wife was. He knew the story of Jacob and Esau and why that happened and the jealousy. And he was able to explain that at age 5. And I thought he may not even realize how important that is right now, but it just brought me so much joy that it's sticking, they're learning, and God's blessing it. So that was cool.
Did he know who Moses' sister was?
No, we didn't ask him that.
All right. That was my podcast question. Who's Moses' sister? No clue. Somebody else. What's your favorite part of ministry? Tobena.
For me, it's just hearing parents reach out to me and tell me that, man, their kid is having an amazing time. They love the youth group. They love you. And for me, that just means the world to me. Being in a place that you're actually valued.
It's awesome. Somebody else. Tony.
Was Miriam Moses' sister? Miriam, right? Yeah. It's not? Man.
Is it Zipporah?
It was Moses' mother. That was the question. So Miriam is right. That's
Continue.
Okay.
This is not good podcast.
For me, I think I enjoy projects. I enjoy just when I was at the bank for so long, the monotony of, okay, next customer, come sit down, let me fix your problem. That does not appeal to me at all. So for me, being able to see a project that needs to be done, accomplish it, and hopefully set somebody up, to sing with it by the microphone or to, whatever. So I enjoy the projects that we have here that allow us to have some success when they come to pass.
A couple more. Favorite part of ministry?
I will say, sounds stupid. Well, it doesn't. It's just who I am. Learning how to not be selfish, because I grew up I'm a selfish person. Like, how is it going to benefit me? You know, me, and just learning through this whole process that it's not about me. Yeah.
And on that note, probably selfishly, just being completely honest, my favorite thing is preaching. I mean, preaching to God. And it's not necessarily about the stage or that. I love every part about it. I love building sermons. I love dissecting the word. I love every aspect about it. I get utter joy every opportunity I get to do that part of ministry. And then outside of that part of it, for me, is the relationships. Office life is something I genuinely enjoy. I enjoy coming in and going through everybody's office. Good morning, good morning. When my ADD kicks in and my head's hurting and my eyes are crossing because I've been looking at a computer for 2 hours, I'll get up and just walk from office to office to go aggravate somebody. Just because I enjoy it. I enjoy that relationship. And then not outside of the office, just relationship with people. I mean, the fact that people, because of the positions we hold in the ministry or God has allowed us to have in their lives, they just accept you and let you be a part of their lives. They let you be influence in their life. That is such a humbling reality, but it is a huge responsibility, and I enjoy that part of it.
For sure. Johnny, you last? Or did you already go?
I went first.
What was yours?
Being able to do things that I would never be able to do.
My favorite part of ministry is hanging out with all of you guys every day. It's awesome. I love it. Y'all are amazing. Ditto. All right. So thank you for hanging out with us today. I know this is a little longer than you're used to with a podcast, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you for taking some time. You're welcome to get in touch with any of us. It's probably most of your first name followed by @palmettopointechurch.com, or you can just email info@palmettopointechurch.com, and they'll get you connected with whoever it is up here that you'd like to connect to. Maybe you're at a smaller church and you're like, oh, I'd love to connect with Tobena and bring him in to speak at one of our youth rallies, or oh, I'd love to have Joseph come preach for one of our Wednesday night services or Sunday night services. We would love to connect you. We'd love to help you in ministry. We're not looking for anything from you other than a relationship. If this is something that you would, you got a techie question and want to ask Tony a techie question, whatever it may be, reach out to us. We'd love to connect with you. Love to help you any way we can. Other churches specifically, but anybody. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out with us. We love you guys. God bless you. Peace. Let's go.
Let's go.